Well, hello. Hello. Okay, it's not morning anymore. Good afternoon. How are you guys doing today? Lovely. I am so happy to be here. I just love this time of year when all the makers are in town. We had an open house at my cave yesterday for creators, and I want to thank Open Sauce for having me here. I want to thank all the creators who came to my cave yesterday. At Tested, we love sharing our home and our enthusiasm, and we are having a great time in the world. Our small team of 6 people and our extended family, and having folks come from outside and hang out always gives us a new perspective on our house. And having so many of my favorite channels in my own cave is intoxicating. I complimented Marius Hornberger on his video, and he looked at me like a deer in the headlights, and about 10 minutes later he came up and he was like, "Did you watch all hour and 23 minutes of it?" I said, "Yes!" Sorry, Marius, I got your name wrong yesterday, and I apologize. I talked for 7 hours yesterday with about 200 people, and I had such a blast, so thank you. This event is an opportunity, or it's a host of opportunities on parade. We come together to exult, to support, to share, to laugh, to dish, and ultimately to spread the word and talk about what's cool about this community. And in doing so, to spread the opportunities that are given to us. One of the things I love most deeply about my fellow public creators is what a sharing economy this truly is. I feel like gatekeeping is at an all-time low, and I'm here for it. Tested and I recently got to collaborate with 2 of our favorite channels, Bobby Fingers and the Slow-Mo Guys. I'd like to talk a little bit about that collaboration. A veteran comedy showrunner in Los Angeles sent me the first Bobby Fingers video with nothing except "watch this." And I turned it on and I heard this Irish voice go, "Today I'm going to show you how I built a 1/9 scale diorama of Mel Gibson's 2006 drunk driving arrest." It's like the most beautiful sentence I've ever heard. And then what follows is a legit 45-minute expert dive into model making exactly that. It blew my mind, all while being hilariously narrated by this bonkers Irishman. Now, I happen to know that Bobby got his start as a mold maker. And within the film industry, mold makers are a particular kind of engineer, and knowing that tells me a lot about his mind. Bobby's a force of nature. He worked in my shop for 2 days, and immediately as he started, I started to say where the screwdrivers were, and he needed model paints, and he was like, "Mate, I've watched enough of your channel. The model paints are over there, aren't they?" So amazing. I was like, "Yeah." I also, all right, that's there. I remember in late 2010, early 2011, thank you very much, we were filming an episode in which Jamie and I are wearing silicone masks of each other and trying to fool people like Mission Impossible. I never tired of dancing as Jamie while dressed as Jamie. And my cameraman at the time, Scott Sorensen, I remember specifically the morning he came and he said, "Dude, 2 guys have started a YouTube channel that's just slow-mo shit." To the kids in the audience, I may curse a couple of times today. What I want you to know is that cursing is the coolest thing ever. What you don't know about adulthood is the crushing amount of work it requires, and cursing is our reward. But when children curse around us, it sounds gross. So my goal, my point in telling you this is to tell you, if you see me curse, don't follow my example, just curse around your friends. Wait, where was I? Here we go, some slow-mo shit. Let's be clear. Like Mythbusters, making Mythbusters was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work, of course, but also super fun. And I think that Kyle, Tamara, Rachel, Alan in the audience can all attest that watching the slow-mo footage was most often the most fun part of making the show. Watching the humiliations we endured unfolding at 1,000 or 10,000 frames per second. That was pretty much all of our favorite part of making the show. And I was ecstatic because we were always having to move on to the next thing, and we were tantalized by what we could see on the high speed. we understood that there was a deep well to be explored using this amazing piece of equipment. And Gavin and Dan have explored it with such rigor and humor, honor, science, indignity, and most of all, fun. If you don't know them, I'm happy to reveal to you that Gavin and Dan, the slow-mo guys, are as charming, nice, funny, and professional in person as you could possibly imagine. So Bobby started the ball rolling. He called both Tested and Slow-Mo guys. We all three made videos from this experience, and we are three vastly different channels producing three different kinds of filmed narratives. And the best part is that neither the Slow-Mo guys nor us at Tested knew what kind of video we would end up with. That made the editing more complex, but I'm so delighted with all three takes on that collaboration. It is a lovely dive into different vantage points on the same kind of fantasy camp day. I wanted to talk about success today, specifically because we live in a success-obsessed culture, and that going viral and selling my company and going public are all cultural marks of success, and they do mean some types of success, but how do they apply to you is what I wanted to talk today. Because when you talk to a successful person at the end of their career, the decisions they've made along the way look linear, but they weren't. Most of the time, it's triage. Most of the time, you will never have enough information to make you will never have all the information you want to make the decisions you will have to make. And I want to talk about success and visualization, because visualization can help you make those difficult choices when they arrive. Also, there's a lot of young people in here who are inspired by stuff that's going on here. And I think that this audience has no small number of people who are looking at the rest of their lives and might be wondering, could I be a genius? Maybe I could be a genius. The answer is no. Nobody in this room is a genius. It's okay. I'm not a genius. I have met a couple of them, enough to know that the rest of us have to work together. Look, when looking at one's own life, it's important to me at least to keep an eye or visualize how I want things to feel as much as the temporal details involved. A friend of mine who's been wildly successful in their life, running many companies well for decades, recently gave up running all the companies they run, and they told me they learned that they would rather be poor than rich running one of these companies. Now, some of that is informed by the fact that they're older, and when you get older, you get tired. You get more in tune with how hard you're willing to work. But a part of that is also by them A/B testing and realizing what is important to them and what they value. And likewise, when I look at my own life in retrospect, I can tell you that my overall happiness did not track one-to-one with my overall successes. I want you to ponder today, going forward, what is it that you value? Is it money, adulation, legacy, powerful friends, power in general, family, kids, romantic love, a big house? These are all totally reasonable and valid things to want for and to strive for. And each also has their own difficulties. Life is a balancing act in which, again, I'll say this, you will never have enough information for the decisions you will be asked to make. So what does success look like? What can it look like? First of all, in movies and fiction, success is a simplistic outside occurrence. I want you to think of It's a Wonderful Life, one of my all-time favorite movies, which ends with the downtrodden but morally unassailable George Bailey finally getting recognized by the hometown he has never been able to leave. He's been myopically pursuing his dreams of leaving town and traveling the world, but each time he's about to, his moral landscape forces him to stick around and do the right thing, seemingly at his own expense. At the end of the movie, the adulation of his neighbors and family shows him the way, and he realizes the meaning of happiness and success. That is fiction. That happens maybe occasionally, but the reality is when a real big success shows up, it's usually because a bunch of work has been done by the person internally. And before you think that I'm going to spout some bullshit like The Secret and that like all you have to do is have the right mindset and you can be successful, no, none of that is true either. What I'm saying is that when success happens, it is most often in my experience because that person has worked really freaking hard. and prepared themselves for this eventuality. So, what are you willing to work hard for? I want to try a mental exercise for about 10 seconds. I want you to ponder for a second the worst job you've ever had. Just think about what it was like to work there. Now I want you to contrast that with the best job you've ever had. And think about the difference in how it felt at each of these places. Now cast yourself 10 years into your future and think about the way you want your life to feel based on that bandwidth you're looking at. Keep doing this. This is a worthy exercise. On the odds that it's instructive, I thought I would tell you part of the story of my and Jamie's and Mythbusters' early success and highlight some signposts along the way. So the TLDR of the origin of Mythbusters is that Discovery was trying to make a show about a hot chick who traveled around America interviewing people about urban legends. They were shooting pilots, so they couldn't build a shop. They needed people with a shop. They needed the chick. They needed all this stuff, and they couldn't cast it. They couldn't find people. And they finally found Jamie and I. We sent in a demo reel. They were like, these two weirdos from San Francisco, sure, we could give them a show. We started making the show, and immediately the show started rating really well. We were filming the first season in 2003 while episodes were airing, and our ratings were ever climbing. We were part of like this freight train. About halfway through the first season in 2003, we did Penny thrown from the Empire State Building, and I got to understand for the first time in building a wind tunnel that showed the two terminal velocities of a penny, I got to see for the first time what I could contribute to this job. And we're having an amazing time. We finished the first season in October of 2003. We start the next season, and somewhere in 2004, the show is such a hit that somebody calls us up and says, hey, the show is such a success. We would like you and Jamie to share in this success. Therefore, we're going to give you 5% of the adjusted gross back end. For all of you in the audience, the adjusted gross back end is 0. It will always be 0. It is always 0. It is a joke. But they were like, we'd love to give you the back end. All you need to do is sign this new contract. Now, we had a contract, but they wanted us to sign a new one. And we were like, we don't want to sign that one. Oh, right. Let me talk about this. Reading contracts. You're going to have to do it. If you're going to want to expand yourself out in the world, you're going to have to read contracts, and they're awful. I find them mystifying. But I also find that if I read each paragraph of a contract 3 separate times, asking myself, what is the best case scenario? What is the worst case scenario for them, for me? How do these compare? And that helps me understand. And I read this contract and I thought, this is a bad contract. I later learned this is what big companies do when they have a success. The goal is lock in the talent so that you can make the most amount of money from them. This contract included me and Jamie signing over the rights to our names and faces in perpetuity with no compensation. They could advertise anything they wanted and we would have to deliver. It dictated 11-hour days on set. It was a horrifying contract. And we weren't sure what to do. Oh, also, they stopped paying us. We had a contract and they stopped paying us. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's against the law. Jamie's like, I'm not sure. We were like idiots. We didn't know. And then we were asked to host Shark Week, even bigger success. We were so excited. And to advertise Shark Week, they hired this big A-list Hollywood director to direct a commercial. And he asked to have dinner with Jamie and I the night before the shoot. And Jamie and I sat down with him and we're like, we got this contract and everyone wants some stuff. What do we do? Do we need an agent? Do we need a lawyer? What do we need? And this old Hollywood director said, he said, they're all going to try and screw you. And you're going to get screwed. He said, the only thing you can hope for is to get less screwed. That's your goal. You won't get not screwed. Less screwed is what you can shoot for. He said, you don't need an agent because you have a job. Which was beautiful advice. He said, you need a lawyer. And truer words have rarely been spoken in my professional life. We met with that lawyer a week later, and at dinner, we're going over the details of our contract, and he's like, yeah, we're going to be able to get you a bump. This will be great. Yeah, this is what he's making notes. And then I say, by the way, they've stopped paying us. And he went, what? And they stopped paying us. And he goes, they didn't write that down, did they? And I said, yeah, I have an email. And he put his pen in his pocket. He was like, this is great. He said, I was going to be able to get you a 25% bump, even a 50% bump, but this is minimum 100% bump for this shit. He said, here's what you're going to do. How long until this season ends? We said 3 months. He said, great. Don't ask about them paying you again. Borrow whatever you need to do to make it work. Fulfill this contract to the absolute letter, to the best of your ability, right to the end. The day you finish this season, I will send a note to your production company saying that they have breached their contract, California law, and you are released from it. And you would love to renegotiate a new contract with them if they'd like to hire you. And we were like, whoa, wait, it gets better. Then he said, in the next few weeks, I'm not kidding, this is exactly how this went down. He said, in the next few weeks, someone in the production that you trust will call you, and they will tell you that I'm messing up your deal and that the production company is recasting it. That person will be lying to you. That totally happened. Just like that. Oh. He gave us a lawyer, and everything got better after that. When you are a successful public face, you gain a weird kind of power. You have a large amount of access. You can call a random company and they'll take you seriously. If you work for someone, you can often call your boss's 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 boss. I've got several CEOs I've worked for, cell phone numbers in my phone. It's crazy. But you better be judicious with how you use that access. One dumb request, and they'll think twice about taking that call next time. But the show kept getting better ratings, and that meant they took all of our requests seriously. And the main thing we asked for with our power and our success on the show was regularly, repeatedly, we asked for more time to make this show. We wanted more room to film this show we loved making. And in 2010, we'd been making the show for 7 years, and our ratings, which had been climbing the entire time, had leveled off and were starting to drop. I am not I'm a scientist in every way but education, and I know a bell curve when I see it. I realized that our ratings were cresting and, we were on the other side of the bell curve. But the show was still a huge value to Discovery, and we negotiated a new contract with them. The first one had been for 5 years. Now it's 2010. We negotiated another 5-year contract. And I am totally clear going into this negotiation that this is our last contract with Discovery. Like, the ratings are cresting, which means at the end of 5 years they'll be lower. And there's no way they're going to want to pay us more at the end. They really won't. We were already, this was a contentious 2-year negotiation, and we had managed to get a very nicely high talent fee. And again, they were angry about it, which is great. When the parent company's angry about your deal, it's an awesome deal. At the end of the last negotiation, Discovery told us, we got to hand it to you guys. No one has ever asked for less episodes per year. But by the end of making Mythbusters, we had 12 to 14 days to shoot every single episode. It was the most ridiculous luxury that never happens. I wanted to call out some of the signposts that you will encounter if you are lucky enough to be successful. Early success will quickly be followed by someone taking advantage of you. Jamie and I were hired by Duracell Batteries. And the first weeks that the show was out, we were flown to New York, and they paid us what was to us at that point a huge sum of money, $10,000 apiece. I'm telling you the number because it's a dizzying amount of money. They sent us to New York and they had us do a bunch of fake news stories where we mentioned Duracell. We didn't know anything about advertising. We didn't know that agencies do this for local news stations hungry for content. They seed them with advertising that don't look like advertising. It's such a scam. Jamie and I didn't know this. We did this job, and it's not that that is bad money to be paid. It's an amazing amount for a day's pay. But that's not what the point is when you're dealing with this. The point is what the market will bear, and they were paying us a fraction of what we should have been paid. Side note, you will need to do research, and a lot of it, to figure out what the market will bear. A good lawyer in your field should have an excellent working knowledge of that. There's also a term of art that you should know. When you're being brought in with a bunch of other folks to do a thing, you want to make sure you're getting paid the same as the other folks. That is called most favored nation status. And it's a regular lawyer thing that lets your lawyer and the other lawyers know, hey, this person's going to be paid the same as all the other persons. Another signpost of your success is that someone will casually insult you for your success. Happens to me about once a month. Someone walks up and goes, "How did you get that show? You just looked into it?" You just looked into it? Yeah, I did. You'll have to read contracts. They're mind-numbing. A huge Fortune 100 company will ask you to do something for free because it's, quote, being a good partner. I've been asked to do shit for free by so many. It's so appalling. You'll hear all the time about these giant show budgets, but what you might not know is that on television these days, when a show is a hit, the parent company often gives them lower budgets every year to make their show. Yeah. Instead of giving more money to the cast like they did with Lost when it got nominated for like 10 Emmys, they take money out of that budget. The whole idea is rent-seeking now. That's late-stage capitalism. The reality is they want all the money, all the time, and extract it wherever they can. Someone will screw you out of a surprising amount of money. You will get boned on a job. Someone will owe you dough and you won't receive it. That will happen. That's happened to me a bunch of times. Don't take it personally. Big companies will take forever to pay you. The bigger they are, the longer they will take. And they don't care if you go bankrupt waiting for their dough. Big companies bankrupt small companies all the time this way. At the end of the day, it is never just about money. We are a money-obsessed culture, so it's important to remember that. I loved working with Jamie on an engineering level and also a partner level. I didn't and don't like him on a personal level, and he feels the same. And while we sweated and argued over every single tiny detail about making stuff, I'll tell you something we did not argue about, and it was money. My great grace of my partnership with Heinemann was that we were offered eye-watering sums of money to bust myths for large Fortune 50 companies. But you don't make residuals in cable, so all we were going to end up with at the end of the show was our integrity, and it was easy to turn that money down when you looked at it through that lens, and I'm so grateful my partner agreed with me on that. For me, it's not about the money, it's about the people that I get to work with. I am making a fraction of what I used to make, and I am happier now creatively than I have been yet in my 57 years. When Bobby Fingers and the slow-mo guys call up, I and the Tested team can say yes to that engagement. I am so grateful. The other part of success is how you spread it around. Using the step up you have to lift others up. I am older now, and I consider that I'm on the back nine of this golf course we call life, and it's time to pass on what I know and spread it. Get out of the way, let others shine, and help them glow. When you can use the goodwill and trust you have earned to provide opportunities to others. I had an A-list celebrity call me up because they wanted a specific robot built. They were like, "Can you build it?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't have the time." "I got the guy for you." And I introduced this celebrity to a friend of mine. My friend executed this robot beautifully, and when they thanked me for the opportunity, I was like, we are all benefiting from this situation. I love that I know someone that I can call to do this for my friend. This is awesome. Even if all you want in the world is power and money, I still think being nice and generous to people is the fastest way there. Life is not a zero-sum game. That is to say, there's enough to go around. Late-stage capitalism would have you believe otherwise. But we solved world hunger 5-6 decades ago. The only reason there's hungry people is because it's profitable. That is not the world that I want to live in, where every gain is somebody else's loss. I want the world to be more like what is happening in this room, in this building, in this city right now. And we can get there, and when I'm in a room like this, I feel like I can see it. Visualization of your future and what you value will help you make those difficult decisions when they arrive. You will never have enough information. And to go over some of the most salient points here, read every contract 3 times. Best case scenario, worst case scenario. It'll eventually make sense to you. Always be willing to walk away. It's never about a good day's pay. It is about what the market will bear. Most favored nation status, that's how you get paid. Another great lens to interrogate your own stance on something is to ask yourself, if I could wave a magic wand, what would I want to happen? And lastly, I want to say, try never to make it personal. The more you can keep from taking stuff personally, the better off you'll be in the long run. I am still working on it. Thank you very much. I love you guys. Thank you. Thank you. I give you a huge hug. Love you guys.